In this video we're working on a CRF230. It's a 2004 and we're going to do a valve adjustment. To get started we're going to have to remove the seat and the gas tank. The seat bolts are here. After that we can get the gas tank off. It's a whole lot easier to get the seat mounting bolts if you take side covers off. Now before we open up the tappet covers, you want to loosen any loose dirt so it don't fall in the engine. We got to remove this plug and that plug so we can rotate the engine and see what position it's in. Before you start turning the engine around, you want to make sure the ignition is off on this bike or it might fire. And that might hurt ya. So check that. So let's take these caps off so we can see where the engine is. It's a 24 millimeter. And this one didn't get over tightened, which is a good thing. Now the book says to take this bracket off so you can get in there. And you could probably sneak it in there, but I think it's a good deal to take it apart and get in there, so that's what we're going to do. There we go. The cap's off. Then we want to rotate this engine around to top dead center on compression stroke. And you go, well, how do you know where that is? Well, if we remove the tappet cover caps, you can see the valves move. So now we can turn the engine. There's the intake stroke. Watch an intake valve go down. As I rotate the engine, there it goes down. So now I know the piston's coming up to compression stroke. And we're watching in the hole for top dead center. Right about. There's a fire mark. That's close enough. So I know the engine's in the right spot. Now, my engine is cold. Okay? And it's about 75 degrees today. So I'm at the right temperature, and the first thing I like to do when I get the engine in the right position is just grab a finger and feel if they're loose or tight. And the intake is definitely tight. Now the factory spec says 4 thousandths intake and exhaust. So let's go get a feeler gauge and our little tool to adjust this. Now to do valve adjustments, it's really a whole lot easier if you buy one of these kind of tools. It's got both sides. This one's nice. I have one I've had for a really long time. I made years ago. That's a little shorter. I like using this because it gets in a lot tighter places. But these work too. Just to get the frame gets in the way a lot of times. So anyway, let's go get the feeler gauge. Well, this one has a little play. I got my 4 thousandths feeler gauge here. You can tell these newer designers from Honda don't wrench on their bikes much, because I'll tell you what, the old ones were a lot easier to adjust. And I'm feeling that one. It feels pretty. Oops. That feels pretty good. And so now we're going to try it with a 5, and the 5 shouldn't go in there. And it doesn't. So that one seems to be fine. So we're going to go to the intake one. Alright, now we're on the intake valve. And that's just like tight. So I'm going to go rotate the engine one more time just to make sure that I'm in the right spot. As I rotate the engine, there it goes down. So now I know the piston's coming up to compression stroke. I look for the timing mark in the hole. Right about. And I'm there. And sure enough, that valve is really tight. And that's probably why this bike doesn't run very good. There's definitely tight quarters in here. Even the tool to fit in there enough to get it. Oh, there it goes. When you tighten down the lock nut, it likes to tighten up. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use the 5mm one because I want it to be 4, and I'll set it tight to this, and so when I lock down the nut it'll be at 4. Just a little trick I've learned over time, especially on these tight bastards. They give you like no room to do it. Alright, now I got the feel gauge finagled in there, and then I'm just going to feel with that to where it has to be. Definitely not one of Honda's better designs. Now I got it locked. Nice and tight. I set that with the 5 and it ended up being tight. So now I'm going to check it with the 4 because that's where it should be. And I can feel it. And the 4 goes in, and the 5 don't. And the 5 don't. So I'm happy with that. Okay, now that we have the valve set, I'm going to put these caps back on. Make sure you wipe them off. Make sure you clean this surface off. Inspect the O-ring. This one looks good. And just put it back on there. Now, remember, just because it takes a really big wrench, you don't have to whale these things down. I see guys crank them so tight they break them. It's got a rubber O-ring. You just turn it lightly. You can feel it crushing the O-ring. And you just turn this till it bottoms out. And once you're there, I mean, I'm hardly pushing on it. You're done. I know, it's a big wrench. Doesn't mean you have to whale on it. You'll break these aluminum caps. I've seen it happen. Now we'll put the brackets and stuff back on and we'll fire it up and adjust the carburetor because you want to do the idle speed adjustment in the idle after you get done making this adjustment. So the air mixture screws there and the idle speed is there, but there's no way you're going to get your hand in there without burning it on this really hot pipe. So I made this little tool, and this is just a tap wrench, piece of brake line, and this little screwdriver in here is an old speedometer cable, and I ground and put a flat on it. And now I can sneak this in here and put it around that screw and just feel for the slot, and I can adjust. See, look at here, I'll lift it up a little bit. You just get it in that slot, and now I can turn that screw while it's running and not burn my hand. Now I'm sure they sell something like this, but I'm sure it's, maybe I'll put a link to one in the description, or you can make one of these like I did. Anyway, let's fire this thing up and see how the valves sound and set this little bit of choke. adjuster in here. Get her in the slot. Good. That's a handy tool. And I didn't burn my fingers. Boy, we're gonna take this thing for a ride. Leave a comment below. Like it. Share it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.